Yeah, we're gonna just start. What's gonna happen? Like this is what happened with Arnold the other day, where we started bullshitting before the feed started, and then I was like, wait, we got to stop and start the feed, and then we talked, and then we were still talking after the feed was off. And I was like, why did we even worry?
Why did we stop? Yeah, that's hilarious.
So we are live, and feel free to, if you wanted to share it, jump on there. We were just talking. I actually had a lot of folks message me this week about this platform, StreamYard, because I've been testing them all. And I told you, like, you used to be able to do this with live stream, but now StreamYard is the only one that I know you can do it with up to 5 accounts, which is cool.
That's cool. Well, I'm going to jump onto your, so let's see, if I jump onto your feed, then I should be able to share it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just click the watch together with friends.
Sure.
Let's see if I can click on that.
I hear it.
That's fun. Good. So yeah. I'm trying to make sure that I'm not echoing on the feed, but I'll go in there a little bit and share it. Cool. I just want to make sure people can see us while we're talking. So how are you, Chris? How's your quarantine going?
I'll tell you, man, I'm great. Like I'm obviously worried about people getting ill and what's happening within our hospitals and our nurses and our doctors. But beyond that, I don't know, like my life has been kind of set up to be quarantined anyway. Like I don't do that much, where I work a lot and I hang out with my daughter a lot. And so this is, I'm enjoying it.
That's cool. You know, it's different, right? It's different, but I keep telling people, quit saying it's the new normal. I hear a lot of people say like, well, I'm just getting adjusted to the new normal. This is nothing normal. We're not going to be living from home and in this style. So I tell people this is the now, and we'll figure out what the normal is going to be when they, pull the curtain back up. Because we really shouldn't act like it's normal right now, right?
Well, but there is some truth to that, because, when you do something enough times over and over, it does become normalized, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. There are going to be new behaviors that are going to spring out of this that aren't going to be a bad thing. And, one of the reasons I wanted to connect with you is that, to me, there's no better like relationship builder, especially in real estate. And just, I would say in life, you're an example to me of what it means to be somebody that goes someplace and never knows a stranger, And so This is like people are being forced to come back into that kind of a space, which you've always kind of naturally been inclined. And I don't know if it's natural. Maybe you can talk about, is it a natural, is that part of your personality, or is that something a skill you've had to build over the years?
I think it's been part of my personality since I was little. I'm one of 3 boys. I'm the middle boy. And, they say about middle boys, they're the best. So I don't know if they say that. That's what I say. My 2 brothers definitely don't have that ability. They're both obviously very personable, and when you get to know them, they're super engaging. But I think I literally, I'm built for what I do, Chris. Connecting in different airports, sitting at a bar in an airport, and literally talking to the people on both sides of me, and the bartender, and the people across the bar. And I love that never met a stranger approach, because you don't know where it's going to take you. I mean, look, there are plenty of times when I get on a plane and I just want to put my earbuds in or watch a Netflix show, but I just think it's just something I've naturally done. And then, finding ways to make it so you're not coming across as salesy. And I think, you and I both know, Chris, some of the best salespeople that we know, they're just engaging people who ask lots of questions, and it never really seems like it's about them. But at the end of the conversation, you're like, man, I learned a lot about them, but it feels like I did all the talking, And
having a natural curiosity is really critical, just in life, I think. But is that, so I am curious though, because I agree with you. Like this is something you're probably tuned in with naturally or not, but there's got to be, you over the years, there has to be some things you have learned or crafted that have made connection and connecting with people quickly more of a skill set, I would say. No?
Yeah, I think probably, one of the first things I try and do is just find something in common. Obviously kids, that's just something that, I found that people love to talk about themselves and their families.
Dale Carnegie, right?
There is no subject that Chris Sauersoff knows better than anyone else than Lauren. You can talk about your daughter and I know nothing about her compared to what you know. And so anytime you can ask people about their kids, I think or grandkids, people love to talk about their grandkids. So I just think, when you can find a common ground, Chris, whether that's hobbies, interests, travel locations. I mean, geez, you've been on some pretty cool trips lately. So if I know someone travels, I might talk about what's your favorite airport, because then it can get, you can get in the weeds on those questions. Are you a Marriott guy or a Hilton guy? Right. I'm a Marriott guy. So, it's fun conversations. And just once again, I think you can do it all with questions.
Sean, I'm not much, but I'm all I think about.
I like that. I like that.
But that's the Dale Carnegie, right? I mean, that's How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's one of the best sales 101 books you could ever invest in. And
one of my things that I pride myself on is remembering people's names and using them often. You've been around me, and I don't always remember people's names, but people say how do you do that? I'm like, well, if you meet me or if you watch me meet someone for the first time, and let's say, Chris, you introduced me to Brad Inman, and you say, hey, Sean, this is my friend Brad. And I say, hey, Brad, how are you? Hey, Brad, what do you do? And I say their name 3 or 4 times, but I don't say, over and over again. But really, I do my best to try and remember people's names, because I think when you use someone's name the next time you meet them, there's that little bit of trust. There's that little bit of link to, all right, I already know this person. And it's not always easy, but using people's names, it's the one thing, Chris, I talk to my audiences about this all the time. Your name is the one thing in this world that's yours.
That's right.
Right. I mean, you could lose all your money, you could lose everything, but your name, if you're walking through Atlanta Airport, the busiest airport in the world, not right now, but normally, if someone just yells out Chris in the middle of the concourse, you're going to turn around, even though they're not talking to you. But you turn around thinking well, what if it's someone I know from back home? What if it's someone I know from my college years or a family member? But it's that thing that we all just pay attention to when we hear it. It's especially if our name is unique, right? I mean, Chris is a very common name. Sean is not even, unique compared to some people's names. But I think when you use people's names, it just that's an instant relationship builder.
Yeah. And that's another Dale Carnegie thing where he talks about that is the most important word anyone has. Well, the number one word people use over and over again is I. I is the number one word someone uses. And then hearing their name is one of the most important things to a person for those reasons you just talked about. The other thing that I've always taken from you is that, and I think this is important, especially if you're just getting started, whether it's in real estate or any type of sales-based business, is working with people that you have some commonality with, and working within a niche necessarily versus trying to be everything to everyone. And what I like about you've always said is, if you are into sports and drinking beer, I'm probably your guy.
Yeah. Yeah. People say, who's your ideal client? And I jokingly say, beer drinking sports fan with a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
And look, I'll work with you. If you're a wine drinking, non-sports watching person that never laughs, we just won't have as near as much fun as beer drinking sports fans with good sense of humor. Because you know who they hang out with, Chris? Other beer drinking sports fans with good sense of humor. And so that's, now it's a joke. It's a kind of a joke answer. Yes, I want to work with people who are polite and professional, treat me with respect, show up on time. There are the ideal clients that tick all the boxes. But in sales, I don't like the answer of anyone who's breathing is my ideal client, because that's not true. No. That's not true. It's like saying anywhere but here is my favorite vacation spot, because that's not true. Yeah. And so, I try and surround myself with other people like me, right? Because then I don't have to be a salesperson. I can just be there to identify and listen for problems and see if I can help them. And, Chris, you do that really well too. I look at someone like you who, you wake up as a father, you go in the office, you've got your relationships there at the office, and you've got your relationships outside the office, which brings people to your office. And, each time you make that different shift, whether it's in your car and your mind, you kind of take on that little personality of whoever the people you're going to be around in order to have that good connection, right?
Yeah, I think so. I also, I've learned through the years too, and I talk with this about with our sales reps a lot, is that life is too short to work with assholes. And so it's important that, it's important, like you mentioned, that you surround yourself with people, not only that are like-minded, but people that are honest, that are doing things the right way, who you can trust and who you like. Because if there's just so much business out there still, and if you're not working with people you enjoy and you like and you trust, then what's the point? I mean, life is just too short. And we've turned a lot of business away over the years for people that either we didn't trust them, or they were disrespectful to our staff or our people. And it's just not necessary. It's not needed. And so I think I try to make it a practice that I tell our reps all the time, like, you should think about firing one client a year. It's just like who's your most difficult person to work with, whether it's difficult because they're just kind of mean or they treat people poorly. And it's just like pruning your bushes back in the spring. There gives you the opportunity to have more oxygen for others.
Yeah. That's not a bad, maybe assignment for people watching this, while we're home sheltering in place. Most people around the country, at least, are sheltering in place in some form or fashion. Open up your contact list on your phone and just scroll through it tonight while you're having a cocktail or watching TV. And when you see a name on there that if they called you right now, you would hit decline immediately, maybe prune them out of your list, right? If you literally cringe when you see their name come up on your phone, then take them out of there, right? And finding those opportunities. I love that, fire a client a year, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think a lot of agents, Chris, especially when they're newer in the business, they're afraid to fire anybody or dump any any lead out of their contact list, so to speak, because they're like, well, it could turn into business. The people that are afraid to fire the assholes are the ones that don't do enough daily relationship building to have enough people, right? If I'm a barber, Chris, and you get in my chair and I say it's $20 a haircut, are you okay? And you say, no, I want to do it for 10. Then I say next. If I have a full waiting room, it's easy for me to say next, right? And we got to come from that. I know you just got back from, was it Bali? I mean, come from that abundance mentality, right? I mean, that was a big thing, and probably what you took away from that is, man, I got a lot in my life that I should be happy about. And that abundance mentality, when you have a lot of clients, you don't have to work with the jerks. You don't have to work with the ones that want to cut your commission and treat you like an idiot and disrespect your time and, make you work harder. You want to find the best clients.
Well, and it's very empowering when you can get to a place in your business, when you fire your first client. It's a very empowering thing. And it's almost a form of like self-care in a way, where you're setting a boundary saying, I'm not going to allow this person to have this impact in my life anymore. And it's very empowering. And it is something that I talk about seriously, because it is just like you said, it's you investing in believing in your capability to go find the next one and the next one and the next one. And so it is a really cool and empowering thing. And it's good for that other person that gets fired too, because hopefully if enough people over time tell them, hey, you're being an asshole, like there's only one common denominator in there.
Yeah, that's a good point. You and I both work in the Central Ohio market. People might be listening and watching from outside that area, but one of the documents we use, Chris, when we start a relationship with a client is called a buyer representation form. And at the bottom of it, there's a spot for 3 signatures. My client's signatures, assuming it's a couple or a single signature, and then my signature. And so I call it a bilateral agreement. We're agreeing to work with each other. We're agreeing to work together to help you get to a satisfied finish, which would be, in that buyer's case, a successful closing and moving into the house or condo of their dreams. And I always tell them, I say, we're all 3 going to sign this because we're all agreeing to work together. Mm-hmm. And if at any point you guys feel uncomfortable with my services, or then just pick up the phone and call me, and we'll either work it out, or you can, feel free to I'd rather have a conversation. But also that gives me, Chris, the same opportunity to, if you're disrespecting my time, if you're not following my instructions, if you're, being unreasonable, then I could also fire you. And Chris, I'm happy to say in my career, I've never really had to fire a client. But the reason I sign this is because I do want to have that opportunity if it should. And, most people then laugh and they say, gosh, I hope you don't fire us. It's just a neat little setup that set those expectations at the beginning. That's right. One of my mentors, Paul Love, the late Paul Love. I don't know if you were in the business not long ago to meet Paul Love, amazing realtor in the Clintonville market. And he told me early in my business, he said, Sean, I can't answer my clients' prayers unless I know what they're praying for. And so he always has what he called a prayer meeting up front. So make sure they set the expectations.
That's right.
And it was always just a great piece of advice I remembered from Paul, that I can't exceed your expectations if I don't know what they are. So let's have that conversation up front and then do everything I can to exceed your expectations without telling you I'm going to exceed your expectations. So then when it happens, you're like, wow, that was worth talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really important. It's really important. What do you, so how miserable are you right now that you don't have sports?
Pretty miserable. You see my social feeds. I've been posting one question a day on Facebook, and I shared over to Twitter, a sports themed question with the hashtag I miss sports. And it's, you flip through Golf Channel. Obviously we're in a Masters week right now. We'd be on, Friday on the Masters right now if it was real time. And it's tough, man. You watch these. I love watching the highlights and things like that, but it's like when you already know what's going to happen.
Right.
But look, I could watch Shawshank Redemption 5 times today and I know what's going to happen. So sports is like a movie, right? And you know the characters and you know the lines, but it's kind of neat. But I miss it. I miss it greatly. And I can't even imagine, Chris, some of our good friends that we have here are, let's just say they don't mind putting a couple shekels on some action. They've got to be going crazy, nothing, because if it'd be one thing if American sports shut down, people could watch, the Premier League, or they could watch horse racing or rugby, but everything's shut down. So it will be a beautiful day when the umpire says play ball, or the whistle blows, or the trumpeter sounds at the Kentucky Derby, or whatever it is. I think people will look forward to getting sports back.
That is a really great question right now. Like, what happens to people, especially people that have like gambling addictions and are in like Gamblers Anonymous? Like, is this could be one of the best things to ever happen to somebody with a gam.
One of my buddies I play golf with says that I think it's on ESPN, they're doing virtual racing, and people are betting on that. There was another person that told me that people are betting on high temperatures around the world. Right? Wow. Yeah, just to have a fix. Yeah, just to watch something. But yeah, you're right. I heard an estimate, Chris. I don't know how you'd prove this, but they say casinos in Vegas are losing about $300 million a day.
I bet.
Without having any type of action. And that's probably, of all the places, New York City, Times Square, would be, eerie. I've been in Times Square during snowstorms, and I don't know if you were there that year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We drove over together, right? We ended up, our flight was canceled. Remember that, Chris? You and Sean Simpson drove over together, and walking through Times Square at like midnight when there's a snowstorm and they've shut down all transportation. It was really surreal. And I can imagine, walking down the strip in Vegas right now would seem weird.
Yeah.
And walking down Michigan Avenue in Chicago would seem really weird right now. And walking down, the Sunset Strip in LA would be weird right now. But
I hadn't been to the office in probably 2 weeks. I went by the office last night, and I tell you, not driving there for the last few weeks and going there, it felt weird.
Yeah.
It was just weird.
Yeah. My mom's 83 years old. So I've been going down to her house, and I make her get out and walk with me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We could just go for a walk around the block. We don't go fast, but I just want her to get out of the house. And because really, she's that age, so she's following all the instructions, and she really doesn't want to go outside the house, and she don't want to get near anybody. So her thing that she looks forward to every day is going out to feed the birds, to fill the bird feeder up. But I've been making her walk, and she told me today, she says it's going to be weird on Sunday for the first time in 83 years. She won't be going to Easter Mass. Right. And that's just you think about like that consistency streak of people that have been doing stuff for that many years in a row, and it changes. And so yeah, going to your office is kind of a new thing, right? I remember, Chris, how old were you when 9/11 happened?
I was 22. I was just gotten out of college.
Okay. So I was at the Ohio Association of Realtors at the time, the convention. We were down in Cincinnati. And do you remember what it felt like? So that happened on a Tuesday, like the following Monday or Wednesday, whenever they started letting planes fly again. Remember when you looked up in the air and you saw your first plane that you hadn't seen in a week? You just kind of take for granted here in Columbus. You see them all over our heads all the time. But that first time, it was so weird to see that plane fly over. and it just, that'll be probably a lot of what we're going through in the next, whenever it happens, next month or in the summer when we get back into the office, when we go to our next conference, when we get to go into a grocery store and not see people with masks or waiting in line and things like that. It's just going to be once again, a rebirth of that.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I'm hopeful that people begin to feel safe again. I think that the thing that I think collectively we're all kind of in the same boat with, which is what makes it really interesting, because we're all kind of in this same place where there's, probably a lot of unprocessed grief going on, and there's a lot of kind of sadness going on. But then the idea of, hi, Lou, say hi to Sean.
Hey, Lauren. Hi. How are you? Good. We were talking about you earlier. I said your dad's an expert.
Your tooth?
Look at that, like a little hockey player.
I lost 4 teeth.
4?
And these 2.
You better call Amazon and send some new ones. Is that where you get your teeth from, Amazon?
No.
Where do they come from?
I don't know.
The tooth fairy.
The tooth fairy takes them. I don't know if the tooth fairy brings them.
Oh.
So
that's a silly question, huh?
Yep.
But yeah, I think processing through some of this sadness, this grief, and getting people to feel safe again. I think the biggest thing right now is people aren't going to be able to do a whole lot if you don't feel safe. It's a fundamental need we all have as humans, is to feel safe. And if we don't feel safe, we do this, right? We curl up into a ball. And that's what causes things like recessions. It's what causes retraction of economies. It's that feeling of unsafeness. And so I'm just hopeful that regardless of what comes out of this, I just hope people can get back to feeling safe again. And that, to me, I think is going to be the challenge that we're all going to have to allow each other to walk through.
Yeah, I remember that feeling after 9/11. That first time you walk through the airport, get on a plane, everybody's looking around. I think that probably happens if, I guarantee it's happened at some point in your life, Chris, where you have a near accident, you slam on your brakes at the last second, or you pass a cop when you're speeding and you get that adrenaline in your gut and you feel that. I guarantee you it's never happened to me, but there's athletes that, come back from ACL injuries and, they've got to go back on the field. And I think they always say that the worst thing they can do is be tentative.
That's right.
The worst thing they can do is not run through the hole or take the hit. And so they shy away from the hit. Whereas, if it's their second time, they say, I just got to come back and play. And I think that'll be all of us. We were in Hilton Head a couple weeks ago before it really went, viral. It's probably a bad way to say it, but before everything really hit. And my son and I went out to play golf the first day we were there, and just pulling up to the first tee, and I reach out to shake my person we were paired up with, and he went, "No, I don't do that." And I don't know if that will be the new greeting.
Yeah, I hope in Bali everyone greets everyone like this, right? And you greet them from the heart. And so I hope, I came back wanting that to be a thing, because how many times do we that's a huge way for us to transfer the flu virus, is through handshakes.
Sure.
I hope we can get past that. I'm over it. I think it would be a good thing.
It is funny. We've moved from handshakes to fist bumps, right? And high fives. And I always say, the best salespeople, number 5 is powerful. You got to be close enough every day to somebody to either give them a handshake, a fist bump, a high five, or a hug. And that's, once again, that'll be a change. I think you're right. The fear and getting past that, I think will be huge. So how are you staying in touch with your staff? I mean, you do such a good job of, once again, your world-class title family, and I can call them that because I know to you and to Kelly, they're your family. And so how are you doing checking in with them and checking in with them as a family member, not as a boss?
Yeah, I'll tell you, they've been amazing. They've all been incredible moving through all of this. The first 2 weeks of this were really probably the hardest professional weeks that I've had in a long, long time, maybe even ever, because we're very quickly being put into a situation where we had to make a decision. We had to make a decision between keeping our people safe and still facilitating business. And so how can you ask your people to place themselves into positions where they aren't physically safe? Mm-hmm. And I know that weighed on me a lot, and I just wasn't going to do it. And so it was, we spent a lot of time, we over communicated with everyone from the beginning. We were completely transparent with every decision we made and had to make. And it was a lot of making really quick decisions, but these were really big decisions, one after the other. And this is all new to everyone. And the only thing we had to ask ourselves, is this the right thing to do? Is this the right thing to do? What's the next right thing to do? And really, Sean, there were moments where it was like, I don't know what we should do.
Yeah.
So we had to come back to that. What is the right thing to do? And we had to very clearly articulate to everyone that first and foremost, everyone's safety is the most important thing, not just ours, not just our customers, not just in our communities. And we had to take a responsibility and lead, and we had to tell our clients and our customers, here's what we're going to do in order for you to be safe and us to be safe. We weren't going to come from a position of, you tell us how you want to close. Like, no, that you're not the professional here. We're the ones that need to set the tone of how we're going to do this to keep everyone safe. So what that's forced us to do, though, is come up with some really unique and interesting solutions that I'm really excited about and proud about, that when we've now essentially have every transaction we can do can be essentially almost 100% digital. Mm-hmm. From documents that need wet signatures on, because that's the biggest problem we have, is that everyone's, and at least in our industry, is talking about remote online notaries. And I don't know if you're familiar with remote online notaries or not, but basically the idea and the concept is that we can do, like you and I are doing right now, we can do that with documents, and you could be a notary and you could notarize that document digitally through this platform, which is phenomenal. It's great. Huge. I get it. I still think consumers at the end of the day want a real live person across from them. They just don't want everything else. And so, but the problem with the remote online notary is that 95% of the deals in our pipeline right now, the lenders can't do them. They're not set up to do them. They weren't, and I'm not saying that as a jab to lenders. I'm just saying that's just the reality of the situation on the ground. And so we can do sellers 100% digitally with a remote online notary. It's great. We can do, most of our refinances are getting to that place, but for your buyers, you can't, it's just not available. It's not a thing. And so really, I was applying a lot of pressure on our underwriters to say, you're now putting us in a place where we either have to break the law or possibly get people infected. And if you ask me what decision we have to make, then we're gonna keep people safe. So what we've been able to do is come up with a solution where we can keep people safe. We can close people now this way, even with a buyer. We can close them like this, where they can have an experience that's safe with a closer. But then we physically have a notary that will go and stand behind a window witnessing documents being signed.
Nice. Yeah. Once again, we're having to think differently, right? The Apple think different, Apple slogan, it's maybe a good leadership lesson, Chris, for people watching this, is that you and Kelly, you have a couple different customers that you serve. You serve your team members, right? They're customers of yours, and then you serve the real estate community who brings their business to you. And then you serve obviously the end line user, and making sure that your decisions all along the way boil down to that. My friend Pete Blank, who worked for Disney for years, talks about everything they do. The first checkpoint it has to go through is safety, right? I mean, nothing else matters if the people aren't safe. And that's the guests at the park, and that's the team, the cast members, as they call them. Everything's safety. And that's, you kept coming back to that in your answer. And so once again, that from the leadership from the top down, who's in your ripple, behind you, who's in your tribe, and how do you make sure that you keep them safe? Because if they're not safe, it doesn't matter what else you do, right? It's been interesting to watch. You talk about even in your small controlled area, you're focused on safety, and you think about the doctors and the nurses and things like that, but they're used to going into an environment that they know what to do. The ones I'm really amazed at and thankful for are the grocery store workers. Because they are out there putting the new products on the shelves and keeping the store lines moving, and they're exposed to people that are, at least at the hospital, you kind of know why the people are at the hospital. Grocery store, they're people, and my son's working at a grocery store here locally in Upper Arlington and stocking shelves. And I'm real proud of him every time he comes home because you take for granted the grocery store, but man, look at that supply line now of all those people that companies like you, Chris, have had to make decisions of how do we keep our truck drivers safe to get from the distributor to the grocery store in the middle of the night, so they can load it in the store, so that when the morning crew comes in, they can put it on the shelves, and the checkout people and all those, and someone is in the Kellogg plant making sure the Pop-Tarts are made, and someone's, in South America picking bananas and putting them on a boat and saying, so there's so many things happening behind the scenes that have been pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, it's I agree. There's so many unsung heroes that are going to come out of this, and I think this really is also a character builder. This really shows your character. It shows what the message it is you're putting out there is. If it isn't safety first, it really shows. It shows where you're at. I think to me, it's very clearly it's safety first, and then it's survival. Like, how are we surviving through this? If, FEMA has data that says half of businesses during a natural disaster go out, small businesses are gone after a natural disaster. So in a situation like this, you got to keep your doors open. You have to figure out a way to work through it. Now, some people haven't had the opportunity to do that, unfortunately, which is awful in and of its own respect, but you have to keep your doors open and survive through a disaster like this. And now I think coming out of it has to be about hope. It has to be about, what do we want this new world to look like? Like, what is, back to normal? Do we want it to go back to normal? What is normal? What should it be?
Look, there's been some really cool things that have come out of this, right? Your industry alone, our industry, as a picture of real estate. We're seeing lenders all of a sudden say, hey, I can make a packet 42 pages instead of 84 pages.
Right.
I can do a drive up closing. The fact is that title companies have figured out, how can I do this in 5 minutes or less? So is it going to be that easy to say, hey, now that we're back, it's going to take you an hour and a half.
Right.
But you were able to do it in 5 minutes before.
Yeah. And
so there's some cool things, right? How some, I said to a buddy of mine who's one of my biggest mentors in the world, he called me today, and I said, I don't think anyone is going to, without jokingly, say, hey, can we go back to those long meetings we used to have in person? Or can we do these 10-minute nuts and bolts? Even if it's face-to-face, we don't have to use Zoom or whatever technology, but do we really need to have hour-long meetings, 2-hour-long meetings, 4-hour-long meetings, when we can really boil it down to, here's what needs to get done, and then let's go do our job? So there will be some cool things. There will be some things we welcome back, right? There'll be certainly some things we welcome back in our world. And whatever that may be, it will be cool to see how that happens. Just like every spring, we welcome back it has been nice, Chris, hasn't it? To see the flowering trees and to see the grass growing and to hear lawnmowers in your neighborhoods and some signs of that. This too shall pass, right?
For sure. Yeah. I'm very hopeful. I think we'll be okay. So tell me, one thing that I've liked to see that you've been doing is, and this is probably because of your lack of sports outlet right now, is you've been doing these weekend music trivia.
Yeah, tonight'll be another one.
And you had last week you had 300 some comments on your live feed or something.
Yeah, wild. I think it got up even higher now. I think it was 800 or something like that. Yeah. So what I've been doing is 2 weeks ago, I've been watching some of my friends on Facebook that are musicians, and they've been just going live, just putting the camera on them and playing and taking requests, and whether it's guitar players or pianists or piano players. And I saw the Boston Red Sox organist is doing a show every week, playing the classic, take me out to the ball game and the songs like that, because the Red Sox aren't playing. But a couple weeks ago, I decided I'm going to go on Facebook Live and I'm going to play lost lyrics. And my buddy Bill Risser said, they're not lost. They're right there on the page in front of you. So, but what I do, Chris, is I read a lyric from a song, and then the people that are paying attention have to come up with the song title and the singer. And, lyrics are one of those things that when you hear it, when I tell you the answer, you're like, oh yeah, of course that's what song it is. But it's hard when I'm just saying the lyric, without any emphasis. Mm-hmm. And so I call it lost lyrics. Tonight's episode, I'm going to have a little theme, Chris. I think we're going to do songs with people's names in it. So it'll give people a little clue if they're like, oh, it's I know it's Springsteen, but I can't. Oh, it's Rosalita, right? Like it'll give them a little bit of emphasis. But I'll tell you, I was shocked last week how many comments we were getting.
That's great.
So, well, it's fun.
You have a really captive audience right now. If you can come up with some fun, engaging stuff.
Well, it's a great lesson look at how many, this is, you and I just reached out offline and said, hey, let's talk. And here's the great thing, Chris, is we do this all the time in real life, but why not just, make the topic generic enough that I don't know if people are watching this right now, and you and I didn't do this. We wouldn't be not doing this if people weren't watching, right? We're still going to do it. If no one's watching, if somebody watches and gets value from it, or gets to meet you or gets to meet me because of it, that's cool. But I think there are some cool things, and I'm really enjoying seeing some of the people that we know, Chris, getting outside that comfort zone, doing, maybe not an Instagram live, but doing an Instagram story with video, turning the camera on themselves, sending a video text, trying a Facebook Live, doing some cool things that I think when this is all said and done, they're going to be that much closer to a new relationship with a potential buyer or seller or client or customer. So
yeah, agreed. Well, my friend, I'll give you back your day. I want to say, so we did have some folks that were messaging along the way: Deborah, Krista, Aaron, Emily, Jazzy, Nikki. So appreciate you guys. And
yeah, right.
I appreciate you. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate the example that you set within our industry and within our community. And so I just, I'm proud to call you a friend, and I appreciate catching up with you.
Well, Chris, let's do it. The Chris and Carp show. It's got a nice ring to it, but you're someone I look at. And the cool thing about you, Chris, is that, I love being a teacher. I love helping people become better, but you are like the eternal student, man. You are always looking to learn something. And it doesn't matter what the subject is, you are going to come with a metaphorical pen and paper and just absorb it, and then find a way to, how do I apply this into what I do? And so just even picking up on from the heart and those types of things. So thanks, Chris, and to all the people on here. I'll leave with my standard salutation: build relationships, solve problems, and have fun.
All right. Thank you, brother.
Thanks, Chris.
Later.